Man, we got some new faces in the crowd. If you're brand new, raise your hand. Would love to see. Welcome. Guys, give them a huge round of applause. Glad to have you guys here. Got a longtime old friend of mine, Brad White, who's here with this team. Brad, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Good to be here.
Everybody, welcome. So glad to have you here. I got a little bit that I want to train on this morning before we get to the real meat and potatoes of the meeting. I want to jam on, I got a lot on my mind because of the week that we've got ahead of us, right? We've got event week. This is our last big event of the year. I think Murph and team have over 600 people scheduled on coming. Give it up for Murph and his entire team. Got a great job with that. Awesome. Right? And I got a lot weighing on my heart and mind because we're going to be doing something very, very special on Saturday. Some of you, if you've been to the event, you know that on Saturday, we represent the foundation, and at our last two events, we've raised over $4 million and $5 million for the year since our first Ukraine mission. We just obviously, a little over a week ago, back on our second Ukraine mission, and to be about the work of not just changing lives, but saving people's lives is immensely touching. And so I really feel inspired this Saturday to do something really cool. In my world, I get to hang out in people's masterminds. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that put on these, they network and they gather in these really cool groups of people. And that's kind of one of the things that these influencers do is there's this mastermind, and someone's mastermind is $25,000 and someone else's is $50,000. If you pay $100,000 to get into someone's mastermind, like Tony Robbins, you know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. I spent a couple years in that ecosystem. On Saturday, we're releasing our mastermind, which costs between $100,000 and $1 million to be a part of. And 100% of the proceeds all go to the foundation, which means the 3 weeks of mentorship and missions that I do every single year with the foundation is an opportunity to combine mentoring with missions. And something that's really cool about a mission is you're going to experience something that you've never experienced before. So when I was in Ukraine and we were literally pulling people out of the war zone and bringing them to safety, that is something that a normal mastermind just can't deliver on. And there's a number of reasons why we're doing it. The first one is there's $20 million to raise a year for the foundation. With $20 million, we can literally feed millions of people. We can bring vital aid to people that need it. And we also have a chance to, when we talk about saving lives, we're talking about pulling people out of the war zones, but we're also talking about people stuck in Ukrainian hospitals that without surgery are going to die. And in Ukraine, there's no one to perform those life-saving surgeries. And an ambulance is geared towards like a 20-minute ride, not a 20-hour ride. And so we're outfitting our ambulances for the long duration that can pull people out of country and get them to those life-saving surgeries. So we're doing some really, really cool stuff. And there's a part of me that's like, man, it'd be really cool to make an extra $20 million a year with a mastermind that's for profit, the way everyone does it. But there's a work here that's really important to do. We've experienced beyond more than enough prosperity. This is our give back. And this is something we do together. So I want to share this with you that as you're helping winning and succeeding, as you're helping people sign up for real estate deals and businesses and franchises and doing all the things that we do, you know, we take a healthy part of those, a healthy portion of that, we put that right into our foundation. But rather than just making more money by having another for-profit mastermind, on Saturday, we're going to open that for the first time. And as we've started doing that this year, people have been so generous. Yes, a lot of them want the proximity to me. They want access to that business, training. But they also, there's a group of people that are hungering to make an impact and do something that they know really matters. So Saturday, something really magical is going to happen. I'm really excited about it. The event is going to be really amazing. You know, this is designed to be a multi-million dollar, event in terms of results and bringing people to their next level. So it's going to be a really awesome week. When I think about what kind of level ups we need, and I've been talking to your team leaders, what can we do to level things up, go to the next level? There's a couple of things that are weighing kind of heavily on their hearts and minds that I want to talk about. And the first one has to do with setting the big deal. So I want to talk about that for just a second. How do you set a deal and carefully ride that line where you don't tie them down so hard that you lose the deal because you can't close them? That's your team leader's job, your closer's job. And yet the other side of the line is where you are going for a little bit of hopium. and I'm not going to tie them down, and I'm just going to see if my team leader will wave their magic wand around and close the deal. The question is, what does that fine line actually look like? Where you know that you've set enough deals and you've done a good job closing and setting up the right kind of deals where they can really get knocked down. How do you do that? How do you ride that line?
Max talks about timing. Timing for the client has to be there. Financials have to be there, and then obviously they have to be motivated. So those are the three things that I think that we have to control in a set.
How do you control that?
Energy, guidance. I want to make them trust me. I want to make them feel my energy, that I believe in the product, that I know that it works, helping overcome their objections, maybe their fears. And that's really the most important part of my set phone call.
Okay, so for you, you're not leaving it to Max to close the deal. You're actually doing a pre-close. It's not just getting him to say, sure, I can put some time into this, but you're actually looking for the objection and seeking to overcome it yourself. And you're doing that on finances and you're doing that on commitment. Okay, awesome. Who else wants to add to that? What else would you do to knock those sets down and make them really good and solid?
Elijah. I got one.
Go ahead, Elijah.
Yeah, Kris, so something that I actually took directly from you, I call it my secret weapon. I have 3 questions at the end of my set before I even send them the packet even. Because I'll do a first initial call to my longer call, and then I send them the packet, and then do a quick Q&A before I set them to Josh to make sure they're serious. But I take 3 questions where I basically ask them, do they have the time to put into it, aka work with the team? Are they willing to put up the money? Like, are they willing to pay? And that's why I bracket them. And then are they willing to spend time with you in mentorship and everything? And I have to get firm yeses, where that's where I handle most of the objections, is in that first phone call with those 3 questions. And if I get 3 firm yeses from those, then it lets me know if they're serious or not. And if I don't, it lets me know what value I need to build on that second phone call if they're hesitant, mainly about the price point.
Perfect. Let's actually
3 questions at the end.
I actually want to bring that up. What do you do when someone has when you have a hard time building value around, if I'm going to partner with Kris Krohn and buy a whole bunch of real estate, for example, no different than Dolph DeRoos, Bob Allen, with some of our different influencers, how do you actually answer that question on why someone has to pay up front to have access to even have the right to invest? Raise your hand if you struggle with that a little bit. Any of you online? Anyone here in the room? Awesome. Your team leaders think that there's more hands than just the 4 of you. So we'll answer it anyway. How do you actually build value of the program so that they understand there's going to be an upfront investment? And what's your number one reason that you give for why there has to be an upfront investment?
I can go.
Go ahead.
So building value is, one, we have to establish that it's going to meet a need that they have. Once we establish that it's going to meet a need that they have, we can build value around everything that the team's going to do for them. 90% of the time, if somebody's going to be interested in a partner program, they're generally going to be interested at some point in time in the whole passive portion of it. So they need to firmly understand that when we say we have a whole team doing all the work for them, we have a whole team that's doing everything from them. The only thing they have to do is a portfolio manager says, hey, you pick homes here, 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 and here, and then we do the rest of the work, from titling to lawyers, property management, everything's covered for them. So it's a cost of doing business, and it's just part of how it is to get started with those things. Usually when I kind of roll it off that way and roll it towards the cost of doing business, I get a few objections on it.
So one of the things that Josh is doing right now is, I think the words Josh spoke were really important, but more importantly, it took him about 90 seconds to convey the information. If you can't talk straight for 1 or 2 minutes about why, there's probably a problem, because the mind needs to hear a certain amount of justification, and everything Josh said was good, but it was more that he had something to say rather than, oh, I mean, obviously, Kris spent a lot of time building this program. It's got to be worth it, right? Like something stupid. So it's really important to have a good answer on that. And I want to talk about the need. And I'm going to steal a page out of Marsha's playbook because I've heard her use this and I think it's really brilliant. I've never used it. I'm actually contemplating renaming some of my own personal programs based on what Marsha shared with me this morning, which is, if someone does a basic level program, we call that a financial security program, 10 grand. It's like, great, I want you to write this down, Financial Genius, 9,997. This is a security program. This is for someone that says, I want to at least make sure I get to retirement with a basic retirement. But I also want you to write down $17,997. And this is a financial freedom program. And it's not around making sure that 20 years from now you're good. It's about acceleration and making sure that you have more than enough. But then she also has her generational wealth program. That's language she uses for the $35,000 unlimited program. It's like, oh, this is for someone that wants to pass wealth onto their posterity, the next generation, or know that after they die that they're doing good beyond just taking care of their own family's needs. So I think that goes to something Josh is saying, which is, how are you framing up these programs? I think there's something really, in fact, Marcia deserves a round of applause for that. I think that's actually really smart. That's actually really, really smart. And it's part of building that value. It's also a part of setting expectation and also just figuring out, are you more interested in security or freedom? Are you more interested in freedom, taking care of yourself, or also taking care of more people than just you and your family, right? I think the other thing that I wanted to lean in on some of the feedback I got from team leaders is really talking about all this home equity. So statistically, last year, the average person gained $51,000 worth of home equity. And we have a record high amount of home equity than we've ever had in the nation right now. It's $185,000. And so because this isn't a coaching program, because these programs are largely investment oriented, it's about buying real estate, buying investments, buying franchises, buying businesses, doing commercial deals. We have the ability to do something that, for example, normal coaching floors can't. We actually get to talk about how you get to rearrange your assets, and there's a value proposition here. It's like, you've got a bank account of bricks. That's what I always call home equity. You got a bank account of bricks. If you've never used that phrase before, I'd write it down just so you learn a new frame up, a new phraseology for how you talk about things. It's like, wow, I've evaluated your finances and this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing you have $91,000 between 401ks and IRAs. You've been working at that for 15 years. At the rate you're going, how much do you actually think you'll have for retirement? Oh, maybe $300,000? Sure, that's fair. Let me ask you, do you think you can retire on $300,000? No. Why not? Because I'm spending $65,000 a year now, and as I add to my family and grow, I might be spending $80,000 or $90,000 a year. So $300,000 is going to last you how many years? 3. Unless you start tearing down everything you built, knock your lifestyle down, and maybe make it last for 5 years. But then what do you do after 5 years when you've run out of money? I hope on every single conversation you guys are having that combo. I hope every single conversation you run the math on when they're going to run out of money at the rate that they're building wealth. Raise your hand if you already do this. If you don't, this is how I close people every single time. A phone call does not end without me doing the math. Hey, it's not just tell me your finances to see if you can afford a program. I'm actually running the math. I'm being there, if you will, financial planner, or at least what a financial planner should be and never is. A financial planner helps people fail because they don't tell them the truth of what they actually need in retirement. For example, if you want to retire on $100,000 through a financial planner at retirement, and all they can promise you is a 3.1% return on an annuity, how much money do you need earning 3.1% so that you can live off of $100,000 a year? What's the number? $3.3 million. So when someone's on track to save $300,000, I would do the math, and my conversation would be, hey, I hate to break it to you, but let me break something down for you. Because I got some bad news and I have some good news. And I'm going to tell you the solution in a moment, but I need you to understand this. You got $91,000 in your 401k and IRA. And if you work another 20 years, that might build up to $300,000. First of all, is that going to be enough money? Oh, I don't know. Well, I'll show you the math and then you tell me if it's enough. When you go to your financial planner and you say, hey, I can't spend my $300,000. I got to live off of it. So I got to live off of the interest. What is the highest interest that you can safely pay me every year on that money without eating my principal? And that's going to be an annuity, and it's going to be 3%. I'll pull up my calculator, and say, great, here's $300,000 in my calculator. I'm going to multiply that by 0.03. They're going to give you $9,000 a year, divided by 12. They're going to give you $750 a month. Let me just ask you, when you think of how hard you're busting it so that you can have the life that you want at retirement, do you think, or did you know that what you're on track for is a retirement of $750 a month? That should terrify you. It's broken. So go ahead, keep getting your free money by contributing to your 401k. I'm just doing you a service right now to make sure you understand why it's not going to work. By the way, if you wanted that number to be not $750, but $10,000 a month, or even just $8,000 a month, $100,000 a year, because it looks like, based on your spending, would you like to retire on $100,000 a year? Yes? Great. You're going to need $3.3 million. In other words, you need 11 times more money than you have right now. Do you have a way of doing that? No, I don't. Cool. Do you mind if I share a possibility with you? Right now, you only have $91,000 in your 401k and IRA, but you have right now around $220,000 of equity in your home. And did you know that at 80% of its value that you could get a home equity line for around $110,000? The question is, what could you do with $110,000? I want you to write this down. Do you have pen and paper there? Let me give you the solution. Just write this down. Let's just say you used $50,000 of it. And even though Krohn has been averaging 34% annual ROIs, let's just say that you're going for his minimum of 25%. Do you know what $50,000 does compounding at 25% for 20 years? Folks, what does it turn into? $4.3 million. Now, if you're in partnership with Krohn and 50% goes to him, that's $2 million for you. Let me ask you, does that one move alone make you better off?
Yes.
By the way, because Krohn actually averages 34%, that 50K wouldn't turn into 4.3 million, but $17 million 20 years from now. So there's a way for you to go faster if you want. By the way, you don't have the ability to do one home at 50 grand. You have the ability to do how many? 2. Now I'll let you do the math on what 17 million times 2 is. But at the end of the day, you should be able to get closer to where you want to go if you do something like this. So here's my question for you. Is your 401k and IRA going to hack it? Do you recognize you need to do something different? Friends, what I'm doing right now is, and I'm not selling, I'm coaching. What I'm doing right now is I'm helping them do the math that their financial planner, their spouse, their friends, and their loved ones won't because they can't, because they don't know how. If a phone call goes by and you don't do this math, like you're ripping them off, because you need to help them understand what they're on track for, because everyone has a game plan. And you should be doing a comparison. Let me show you where your plan is leading you. Let me show you where this game plan might lead you. I can't make promises. There's no guarantees. There's nothing. But Krohn does have a track record on 6,500 homes and $2 billion worth of real estate. Or if you're talking about Robert Allen, his track record, or Dolph Roots and his track record, you have the exact same thing. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? So this week I want to challenge you to increase your number of sets, and I'm also inviting you to increase the quality of your sets. And be honest with yourself. If you think that your sets kind of suck because you're crossing your fingers and hoping it's a good deal, then you got to get with someone like Nick or someone else that slays it. What percentage of your deals that you set go down? I track your
Close to
closing ratio.
90.
What is it?
Probably 90.
It's close to 90. And I'm just going to tell you right now, Nick probably qualifies him too hard. He might be able to dial it down and push a few more sets through, and maybe that team leader gets a little bit of extra. But what I tell you that Nick does is he takes pride in knowing that the job of closing the deal is not his closers. For him, it's whose job? His, because he knows what it takes to close a deal down. What is it?
65%.
65%. That means 2 out of every 3 deals that Nick sets are going to go down. So for yourself, increase your sets and increase the quality of sets by having this conversation with them. And if you don't know how to have that conversation, then get with someone that does. How many of you feel like you can confidently dish out the numbers the way I just showed you to, because we do some of this in training? How many of you got that? Look at the people who know how to do that and practice it. Because there's no way, if I'm talking to a genuine soul on the phone that's really interested in solving the problem, even if they start a little douchey at the start of the call, there's no way that conversation isn't going to be presented the proper way without ego, a slice of humble pie that says, no one's ever done this for me. And it takes a few minutes, but what it does is it creates value, because now, instead of using adjectives, by the way, how many of you are in a married or committed relationship with somebody? How many of you know firsthand that if you use adjectives, that you can talk about problems over and over and over again and never get to a solution? How many of you know this one? Yes. But the moment you turn to data, the moment you turn to numbers, it changes the game. So you can't just use motivational language like, well, I mean, come on. I mean, in your situation, if you keep doing what you're doing, I mean, do you think it'll get you where you want to go? That's motivational. That's kindergarten. You got to go PhD. Let's run some math. Let's actually take a look at the reality of this, because adjectives are based on opinions, and opinions are arguable to death because they're based on preference. Math, that's a totally different game. It's like, you tell me whether you're happy with $750 a month at retirement. I don't know, maybe you are. Maybe you got a strategy where that's going to work for you. But if they don't, then show them a better way, show them an alternative. Make sure you're comfortable having the conversation on home equity, other assets. Make sure that you're aware of how to have conversations like, I'm not the closer, but because I'm responsible for pre-closing the deal, I might be suggesting things like, it's interesting, of that $185,000 that you have in 401k, it looks like $135,000 of it is rollover from previous employment. Did you know some of that could be self-directed and moved into real estate without tax or penalty? Max might talk to you about that. Now I'm starting to seed the sale. Now I'm starting to give them ideas and grow some curiosity to get them excited about that next conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So increase your sets, yes or yes?
Yes.
And then increase the quality, yes or yes?
Yes.
Do that this week. You guys are going to have a rocking week. And for those of you that are on specials, special teams with the event, we're going to be crushing it here. We're going to be crushing it there. It's going to be awesome all the way around. Appreciate you guys. For those of you that are new, welcome home. Thank you for being here. We look forward to crushing with you guys as well. Appreciate y'all.